Hello, my friends. I hope all of you are fine. This is the Narrative Stories channel. Let's start this story. Adam and Emily had what many considered the perfect life. Their relationship was the epitome of modern success. A decade-long marriage, 2 beautiful children, and thriving careers. Adam was a dedicated software engineer, working long hours at a tech firm, often bringing work home with him. His dedication provided the family with a comfortable lifestyle, complete with a spacious home in an upscale neighborhood. Emily, once a vibrant and ambitious woman, had chosen to focus on their children after a brief career in marketing. Though she loved her role as a mother, she often felt isolated and undervalued, her world shrinking as Adam's career soared. Their marriage, once filled with passion and excitement, had slowly settled into routine. Dinners were quiet, conversations brief, and intimacy scarce. Their upcoming 10th wedding anniversary was meant to be a celebration of their life together, but instead, it looked like an ominous reminder of all the years that had passed, without the spark they once had. Emily often found herself wondering how they had drifted so far apart. The reality of their marriage, filled with small resentments and unspoken disappointments, contrasted sharply with the image they projected to the world. Friends and family saw them as a model couple, unaware of the emotional distance growing between them. Emily's loneliness gnawed at her, a silent burden she carried, even as she tried to keep up appearances. Adam, absorbed in his work, failed to notice the subtle signs of discontent. He assumed that everything was fine, as long as they had financial security, and the children were happy. But beneath the surface, the cracks in their relationship were widening, setting the stage for a crisis neither of them saw coming. It was at a corporate networking event that Emily's life took an unexpected turn. As she moved through the crowd, exchanging pleasantries and making small talk, she spotted a familiar face. Michael, an old college friend, stood across the room, his eyes lighting up in recognition as he saw her. They had shared a brief but intense friendship during their university days, a connection that had faded as life took them in different directions. Seeing him now, amid a sea of strangers, felt like finding a lifeline. Their conversation was easy, flowing effortlessly from one topic to the next. They reminisced about their college days, laughing over shared memories, and catching up on the years that had passed. What began as a casual chat soon became something more. Michael's attention made Emily feel seen and appreciated in a way she hadn't felt in years. His compliments were genuine, his interest in her life sincere. For the first time in a long while, Emily felt a spark of excitement, a reminder of the person she had been before marriage and motherhood consumed her identity. Their connection deepened as they began to meet regularly, under the pretense of work lunches and coffee catch-ups. What started as innocent conversations gradually became flirtatious, then emotional, and finally undeniably romantic. Michael offered her an escape from the monotony of her life, filling the void left by Adam's absence. As their affair progressed, Emily found herself caught between the thrill of this new relationship and the guilt of betraying her family. She justified her actions by convincing herself that she deserved happiness and that she wasn't hurting anyone as long as Adam didn't find out. But the line between right and wrong was becoming increasingly blurred, and Emily was slowly losing control over the situation she had created. Adam wasn't a man prone to suspicion, but he couldn't ignore the changes he saw in Emily. She had become distant, her usual warmth replaced by a cool detachment. She was spending more time away from home, attending work events, and meeting with friends he'd never heard of before. There were moments when he'd catch her staring off into space, lost in thought, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. She had always been open with him, but now she seemed guarded, almost secretive. The first real crack in Adam's trust appeared when he found a receipt for an expensive dinner in Emily's purse, from a night she had claimed to be out with her mother. He brushed it off at first, telling himself it was probably nothing, but the seed of doubt had been planted. His mind kept returning to it, replaying little details that didn't add up. He noticed that Emily was receiving more messages than usual, often smiling at her phone before quickly locking the screen when he entered the room. Adam's work had always kept him busy, often distracted, but now he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He began to question everything: her sudden need for privacy, the vague explanations for her absences, even the new lingerie he found in her drawer, which she hadn't worn for him. At night, he would lie awake, his mind racing with possibilities. Could she be unhappy? Was she seeing someone else? The thought was unbearable, but it gnawed at him, refusing to be silenced. Desperate for answers, Adam started paying closer attention, searching for clues in Emily's behavior. He didn't want to believe that she was capable of betraying him, but the evidence was slowly mounting, leading him to a truth he wasn't ready to face. The turning point came when he accidentally stumbled upon a series of messages on her phone, sent late at night to a number he didn't recognize. The conversations were brief, but intimate, filled with inside jokes and terms of endearment that didn't belong to a platonic friendship. His heart sank as the reality of the situation began to set in. Adam's worst fears were being confirmed, and he knew he had to confront Emily, even though it might destroy the life they had built together. The confrontation was inevitable, but that didn't make it any easier. Adam had rehearsed what he would say countless times. But when the moment came, all his carefully chosen words abandoned him. Emily had just come home from another one of her mysterious outings when Adam finally decided he couldn't wait any longer. The children were asleep, and the house was quiet. Too quiet, as the tension between them built. "We need to talk," Adam said, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and anger. Emily looked at him, her eyes widening with realization. She knew this moment was coming, but she had hoped to avoid it. For a long moment, they just stared at each other, the silence thick with unspoken accusations. Adam took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "I know you've been seeing someone," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The words hung in the air like a curse, irreversible and devastating. Emily's face paled, her hands shaking as she fumbled for an explanation. But there was no denying the truth any longer. "It's not what you think," she began, but the tears welling up in her eyes betrayed her. Adam felt a sharp pain in his chest, as if the ground beneath him was crumbling. "Then tell me what it is, Emily," he demanded, his voice rising in desperation. "Tell me what you've been doing behind my back." Emily broke down, the weight of her guilt too much to bear. She confessed everything: her loneliness, her need for attention, and how she had let herself get swept away by the excitement of Michael's affection. She tried to explain how she never meant for it to go so far, how she never wanted to hurt him, but her words sounded hollow, even to her ears. Adam listened in stunned silence, his world shattering with each word she spoke. He had imagined this moment so many times, but the reality was far worse than he could have ever anticipated. The woman he loved, the mother of his children, had betrayed him in the most intimate way possible. He wanted to scream, to lash out, but all he could do was sit there, numb and broken. "How could you do this to us?" he asked, his voice cracking with emotion. Emily had no answer. All she could do was cry, her tears falling like rain on the ashes of their marriage. The confrontation left them both devastated, their lives forever altered by the choices they had made. At that moment, Adam knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The days that followed the confrontation were a blur of pain and confusion. Adam and Emily existed in a state of limbo, unsure of how to move forward or even if they wanted to. The trust that had once been the foundation of their marriage was shattered, leaving only the raw wounds of betrayal. Adam felt like a stranger in his own home. Every corner of the house, a reminder of the life he thought he had. He couldn't look at Emily without seeing the images his mind had conjured of her with Michael. And every time he heard her phone beep, a fresh wave of anger and hurt washed over him. Emily, on the other hand, was consumed by guilt. She had never imagined that her actions would lead to such devastation. She had hurt the man she loved, betrayed her children's trust, and put their entire future at risk. The affair, which had once felt like an escape from her problems, had instead magnified them, bringing her life crashing down around her. As the reality of their situation set in, both Adam and Emily began to realize the true cost of infidelity. It wasn't just about the betrayal itself, but the ripple effects that spread through every aspect of their lives. Their children, sensing the tension between their parents, became anxious and withdrawn. Friends and family, unaware of the details, began to notice the strain, asking questions that Adam and Emily weren't ready to answer. The emotional toll was immense. Adam found himself constantly on edge, prone to sudden outbursts of anger or bouts of depression. He struggled to focus at work, his thoughts always returning to the betrayal that had upended his life. Emily, too, was a shadow of her former self, her guilt and regret weighing heavily on her every action. She tried to reach out to Adam, to apologize, to make amends, but he was too hurt, too angry to listen. The couple found themselves at a crossroads. They had to decide whether their marriage was worth saving, whether they could ever rebuild the trust that had been lost. The price of infidelity was steep, and both Adam and Emily were paying for it in ways they had never anticipated. They knew that no matter what happened, they would never be the same again. The affair had changed them, and now they had to face the consequences of their actions, whatever they might be. As the weeks passed, the pain of the betrayal remained, but a new challenge emerged, deciding the future of their marriage. Adam and Emily stood at the brink, unsure whether to step forward together or apart. They sought counseling, both individually and as a couple, trying to untangle the complex web of emotions that had ensnared them. Therapy sessions were difficult, often bringing more pain to the surface, but they were also necessary. Adam wrestled with his anger and hurt, trying to understand how things had gone so wrong. Emily confronted her guilt and the reasons behind her actions, realizing that she had been running from herself as much as from her marriage. The counselor encouraged them to communicate openly and to express their fears, desires, and hopes for the future. Slowly, the walls they had built around themselves began to come down. Adam learned to listen without immediately reacting in anger, while Emily started to rebuild the trust she had shattered, one small step at a time. There were no easy answers, and the path to healing was fraught with setbacks. Some days, Adam felt as if they were making progress, while other days, the pain felt as fresh as the day he had discovered the affair. Emily struggled with the weight of her mistake, knowing that she might never fully regain Adam's trust. But despite the odds, they were both committed to trying. Their children, oblivious to the full extent of their parents' struggles, became a source of strength for both of them. Adam and Emily realized that, for the sake of their family, they needed to find a way forward, whether that meant staying together or parting ways amicably. In the end, Adam chose to give their marriage another chance. It wasn't an easy decision, but he knew that the love they had shared for so many years deserved one last effort. They began to rebuild their relationship, starting with the basics: trust, communication, and mutual respect. It was a slow process, and they knew that they might never fully recover from the damage that had been done. But they also knew that they had to try. The affair had taught them valuable lessons about love, commitment, and the importance of being honest with each other and with themselves. It had been a painful journey, but it had also been a necessary one. In the end, Adam and Emily emerged from the ordeal stronger, more aware of the fragility of their relationship, and more determined to protect it. They knew that their marriage would never be the same, but they also knew that it could still be something worth fighting for. The price of infidelity was high, but they had paid it, and now they were ready to start anew. Together. Thank you for being a part of Narrative Stories. Your support and engagement mean the world to us. We are committed to bringing you the best in storytelling. What kinds of stories would you like to see next? Share your thoughts in the comments below.